So, after discussing persona, we will now discuss about the other ways through which we can map experiences. Now, by the word mapping experiences, I mean, see the data that you have gathered during your qualitative research or qualitative methods or during quantitative methods, they all talk about behaviors, they all talk about attitudes, as in these are the two types of data points that we are actually gathering in order to interpret the experiential data, right. So, attitudes and behaviors provide us with key insights about the experience of our target customers or audiences or our actual users. Now, consider this, we are in a situation where there are many people. We have also discussed this earlier while we discuss about persona. Many people means the team has persons from multiple backgrounds, and we want to arrive at a common platform or a common point where we consider that this is our person and this is how he behaves and this is what he experiences, this is how he conceives his task, this is how he completes his task, this is how what are the experiential points that we need to be addressed. And in order to do that, it is important that we come up with a map, with certain maps that provides us with these insights. And we will discuss about creating these maps in detail in this part of the lecture. When we talk about UX mapping methods, we talk about the situation which I just referred now, where people from different backgrounds and experiences. In your design team, you can have people who are marketing people, you can have your colleagues who come from computer science background, you have people who come from ethnography, you have people who would come from design backgrounds. So, it is a accumulation of people from multiple backgrounds, and for all of them to be at the same page and to start feeling, or in another word we can say, in order to empathize with the user, the goals of the project, the needs of the users and their behaviors, their experiential data must be defined clearly. And this common understanding is often we build them using visualization techniques, and these visualization techniques are often referred to as mappings. So, mappings make sense of and describe various aspects and processes associated with the product. So, when we talk about mapping methods, we must first realize that the focus of these methods lies on key variables or key factors, and these are, as you can see in this slide, physical factors like artifacts, tools and devices, behavioral, actions, activities, tasks of your users, their cognitive processes, that means thoughts, views and opinions of your users, their emotional aspects, feelings, desires, state of mind of the users, what are their needs and how we define needs. We define needs by goals, outcomes, jobs to be done. Most importantly, what their challenges are, their pain points, their constraints, their barriers, and these are all related to their needs. The context an important element here. The setting, the environment and the location in which these people are working or our users are working, their beliefs, values, philosophy which we term as culture, and most importantly events, that means triggers of those needs, moments of truth, points of failure. These are the factors that are crucial to what we term as the users, the focal point of our discussion, right. Now, when many users work together in a group, they are called an organization. So, from the perspective of organization, the factors that are of prime focus are touch points, mediums, devices and information through which the tasks are being carried out. What are the kind of offerings that these companies or organizations have, that in the products, the services, the features, the processes, various activities, various workflows, challenges for the organization. These are all related to organization, their problems, issues and breakdowns, day to day operations, roles of the users or the workers working there, departments, reporting structure, matrices used to measure traffic, financial statistics, evaluation, strengths, weakness and learnings, opportunities, gaps, weakness and redundancies, goals for the organization, revenue, savings, reputation, and finally, strategy that explains the policy, design making and principles. Now, these all are related to organization. Now, you might be wondering why we are discussing about this. See, we are discussing about all these factors because we are currently trying to understand the focal point of defining or creating these visualizations, which we are referring to as UX mappings. And in order to create these visualizations, it is important that we understand the focus on the basis of which these visualizations would be created. That means, the datum, the principal point of view from the perspective of which these mappings can be created. And what you can see from this structure is that these mappings are created particularly based on two principal components, and these are at the individual level, it is the user which has these many factors, the physical, the behavioral, the cognitive, emotional needs, challenges, context, culture and events. So, a user can be looked upon all these factors and his experiential data can be defined or visualized. Similarly, at a more higher level, we can look at the organization, which is a collection of so many people working in that group, and the factors for an organization would be touch points, offering, processes, challenges, operation, matrices, metrics, evaluation, opportunities, goals and strategy, right. And these would tell you the distinction between the focus of observation when something is focused at an individual level versus something when it is focused at the organizational level, right. With this, we must also understand what are the different types of mapping. Now, based on the various focus points that we have discussed just now, you would realize that there are 4 different types of mapping techniques or visualization techniques that are created by designers. And these are empathy mapping, customer journey mapping, experience mapping and service blueprinting. We will discuss about each one of them in detail. But before we discuss about each of these types of techniques, let us understand the decision framework which is used in order to create these mappings. So, before any visualization or a mapping effort is used or created, be it empathy, customer journey mapping, experiential mapping or service blueprint or any other, 3 decisions must be made, and these are current, that means the state of affairs currently, future that needs to be, hypothesis versus research, low fidelity versus high fidelity. So, what do we mean by when we say current versus future to be? Now, the decision involves action and states depicted in the visualization. So, when we see a visualization, what does it depict? Do they reflect the current state of the world or do they reflect a desired state? So, when we talk about current state, we are referring to the as it is, the current practice, while the desired state is what we consider as the future situation scenario, current scenario versus the future scenario, right. So, current mappings are based on an actual today state of what you are mapping. This approach is ideal when the mapping goal is to identify and document existing problems and pain points. So, if you are focused on identifying the pain points, the frustrations, the issues that is currently existing in a work practice, you must go for mapping or collecting data that tells about the current state of affairs. Future mappings are based on an ideal state. These are all anticipated states. Future mapping is an anticipated state for any user type. So, future state maps help reinvent and conceive how a user experience would feel in future. Use future state maps to set a benchmark or goal for the ideal platform of your product or service. Here, what you need to understand is your future map must be based on what is current. So, you visualize the future based on the constraints that your present state offers. That is very important for us to understand, and therefore, in order to envisage a future that addresses current pain points, current issues, we must have an appraisal of the existing state, right. So, therefore, your visualization should be always be focused on identifying issues, negative emotional state, negative experiential state, breakdowns, pain points, frustrations, which as a designer we must intend to address them during our future mappings. The next one is hypothesis versus research. Now, hypothesis mappings are based on an accumulation of existing understanding within a team or organization. This approach is a great way to merge multiple existing team views, create a research plan that is based on the gaps that emerge from your hypothesis map, and make a first step towards a higher fidelity research based map. What in short it tells about hypothesis mapping is that it is based on assumptions, and your assumptions are based on past data. That means, you must understand the state of the art, the situation that is happening currently in order to hypothesize, in order to make an assumption. Assumption that identifies or that addresses a gap that exists. A research mapping is based on data gathered specifically for building the map. Now, this is specifically based on existing data, while the hypothesis that we are speaking about is an assumption, while research map is based on current existential data. This approach is best when there are time and resources dedicated to create a research plan. Regardless of where you start, your maps should be iterative and constantly updated with new findings. In situation when you focus on creating a research map, it is an iterative activity, as you know. It constantly gets updated. You have your research team gather the data and keep on updating the scenario. It can be classified as a store that is constantly delivering what product it has through the software application. You have a huge network of people who works behind to ensure that things, logistical things that are in the warehouse are being displayed accurately and perfectly through the web interface. That is an example of what we tend to do in a research map, while a hypothesis map is more of an assumption which is based on research data, existing data. And finally, low fidelity versus high fidelity. Now, this decision pertains to the quality of the final map. How do you visualize your final map? A low fidelity map are unpolished, quickly made and often created with sticky notes. You might have seen how designers create them. It is very flexible, unrefined manner, and you can use sticky notes or you can use collaborated Excel sheets. Many times people use that. While high fidelity are highly decorated graphical products. These are polished, these are created digitally, requires an extensive amount of time to be created, and then they look realistic and look so nice when you present them. And these maps are often created digitally and then they are dispersed, that means shown to the team. With this, we will now start discussing about the maps that we have, the 4 different types of UX mapping methods that we have talked about. Let us start first with empathy mapping. So, what are empathy maps? Empathy maps help team members understand the user's mindset. An empathy map is a tool used to articulate what we know about a particular type of user. It externalizes users' knowledge in order to create a shared understanding and aid in decision making. Let us see an empathy map. What you see in this slide is an example of an empathy map of a person named Jamie buying a TV. You always see that the empathy map is created based on an activity or task and a user who is performing the task. This is a nice example that I have collected from the Norman Nielsen group, which is presented here. Now, the characteristics of an empathy map are this: the map has 4 quadrants, and these 4 quadrants are the says quadrant, the thinks quadrant, the does quadrant and the feels quadrant, and this is our persona. I am sure and now you know what we mean by persona. So, our map has 4 quadrants. It shows user's perspective regarding the task related to the product. It is not chronological or sequential, and there is one empathy map for each persona or user type. Right. So, for each user type there is one empathy map. That means, when you create one persona, you know for buying a TV, you have observed few people, you know you have 3-4 types of users. Some users may be adults, some may be children, some may be people who stay in the home, some people who might be buying for someone else. So, each of them are your user types. Now, you focus on one user type, go to 10-20 people who are that specific user type, collect data, that is a persona, and whatever they say, whatever they think, whatever they feel and whatever they does. Based on your interviews, whatever you can collect this data, you plot them accordingly in these quadrants. Right? For example, you can see here in the says quadrant, it says I was expecting something different, I want something reliable, what brand do you like, where should I start. These are some of the verbalizations that is being reported here for the persona. Similarly, in the things quadrant, you can see what else am I missing, why is this so hard, wasting too much time, I want something awesome. Similarly, in does quadrant, you see checks the website, lists pros and cons, observe in store, so on and so forth. Similarly, in fields quadrant, you will see overwhelmed, fear, excited, anxious. These are all what the person who has observed, the researcher, the designer, the team member who has observed him has created this empathy map in order to have a visualization of the persona and the issues and the experiential aspect of that persona based on these 4 qualities: says, thinks, feels and does. So, why do you use an empathy map? The word itself tells you the story, right. The focus of any human centered design approach or a user centered design approach is to build empathy for users. And in order to ensure that you empathize with your users, you address their problems and it is not a self-centered design, you create these empathy maps. And these empathy maps would guide you during your conceptualization stage. To force alignment and understanding, see this is very crucial for us, to force alignment and understanding with whom? Among the team members, that this is what our persona looks like and this is how he acts, she thinks, she feels. And when do you use it? You use at the beginning of any design process, at the initial stage of your user study, when you have some data being collected. When categorizing research notes from a user interview, you create this empathy map. And you put these dominant characteristics here. There are 2 ways of creating this empathy map. You can create one empathy map for each user and then you club them, you identify the dominant patterns and create one for the entire user type, for the entire persona. That is one way. Okay? And if you are good at skipping, not if you do not want to create an empathy map for each of the user, what you do? You make a note of all the data, see what are the most emergent and dominant characteristics that are being displayed or provided by your user in terms of what they say, what they think, what they feel and what they does, club them, put them together and create a persona, an empathy map that includes the persona. These are the ways through which you can create your empathy map. The next one is the customer journey mapping. Now, customer journey maps focus on specific customers' interaction with a product or a service, right. It is a visualization technique of the processes that a person goes through in order to accomplish a goal. It is tied to a specific goal or a product. The tasks are tied to a specific business or a product. These are the tasks, right. So, in its most basic form, journey mapping starts by compiling a series of user goals and actions into a timeline skeleton. We would see the skeleton the next slide. After that, the skeleton is fleshed out with user thoughts and emotions in order to create a narrative. And finally, that narrative is condensed into a visualization used to communicate insights that will inform design processes. So, what you see in this slide is a nicely presented visualization of the customer journey map. You see that The characteristics of a customer journey map is that it is tied to a specific product or a service. It is split into 4 swim lanes. That means, these are the lanes, the different colors that you see are being classified as 4 swim lanes, and these are phases, actions, thoughts, mindsets or emotions. It reflects the user's perspective, including her mindset, thoughts and emotions, leaving out most process details. It is chronological in nature. Remember, in empathy map it was not chronological in nature, but here it has a process centric flow. It is chronological in user, and there is one map per persona per user type. So, why do you use a customer journey map? You use a customer journey map to pinpoint specific customer journey touch points that cause pain or delight, to break down silos, to create one shared organization wide understanding of the customer journey, and to assign ownership of key touch points in the journey to internal departments. And when do you use it? You use it at any point in the design process as a reference amongst a team throughout a product design cycle. What you see here is the 4 swim lanes: the define lane, the compare lane, the negotiate lane and the select lane. Now, these names will change based on the business, service or the product that your user is being attached with. In this case, the example that is being presented here, you would see the customer is trying to switch mobile plans. So, he or she is trying to Jamie, the scenario is this: Jamie needs to switch her current mobile plan, and she wants a plan that can save her money without having to sacrifice usage limits. What are the expectations? She has clear online information. That means, she is expecting that the service or the product or the business organization must have clear online information. It must have the ability to compare plans in terms of breakdown plans in terms of its benefits, and the interface should be the system should be friendly, and it should have a good customer support. Now, these are some of the expectations of Jamie, which are persona. Now, the journey towards switching a mobile plan has been observed by the designer as such. The first phase, which is the define phase, the current plan is reviewed, parameters, define parameters for new plan parameters are defined. Then it goes, the second phase is compare, where these comparisons are drawn across various plan, watches, TV commercial, researches, uses current career website tool. So, from multiple mediums, our persona is drawing data in order to understand which plan is better, which plan is not favorable in terms of her requirements. Then is the third phase, that is the negotiate phase, where our persona calls current carrier to tell them she is shopping around, calls competitors to see what they can offer. So, this is the phase where she is trying to negotiate and see what is better for her and which one she would opt for, and finally, she makes a decision and go for one, which is the select phase. Now, be informed that whatever product or service you are looking at, it will not have only 4 phases, or it will not have the phases like define, compare, negotiate, select. No, you have to define these phases based on your observation, based on the task that you are observing. Your activities will be different. So, therefore, this is just an example to show that a customer journey map is a relationship between the persona and the activity or the goal that the person is having. That means, the product is here for switching mobile plans. It is a relationship between the persona and that product. So, whatever activity happens is broken down into the series of those activities in order to highlight the individual progress of how the persona experienced the journey from first to the last, the end of the activity. We would now move on to the next one, which we call as the experience mapping. Now, experience maps generalize the concept of customer journey maps across user types and products. So, an experience map is a visualization of an entire end to end experience that a generic person goes through in order to accomplish a goal. This experience is agnostic of a specific business or product. It is used for understanding a general human behavior as opposed to a customer journey map, which is more specific and focused on related to specific business. So, this is where the differentiation lies, right. Experience map is not related to a product or a service per se, which we have seen in the customer journey map. It is focused on the behavior, on the human behavior in general. Let us see here. What you see in this slide is an example of the experience map, and its characteristics are: it is not tied to a specific product, unlike a customer journey map. It is again split into four swim lanes: phases, actions, thoughts, mindsets and emotions. It offers a general human perspective. It is not specific to a particular user, type or product service. It depicts events in chronological order. These are important touch points for creating an experience map. What you see here is the experience map of a pregnant of the entire period of pregnancy. The phases are being termed as first trimester, second trimester and third trimester. What you see here are the various levels, anxiety levels plus common tests that are associated with the first trimester, the second trimester and third. Then sharing, what are the issues that are being related to the close circles like partners, friends works and things that are more obvious in public. So, in the third trimester, it is more obvious, the situation is more obvious and it is known to the public. Planning, the first trimester, the focus is on name generation, the second one is the maternity leave plans, nursery and supplies preparation. The third trimester is more on birthing classes, baby shower, hospital bag, so on and so forth. And this is a visualization of the physical experience, which is a combination of energy, weight and discomfort, planned as a referential idea of the journey of the person across the 3 trimesters. Now, what you see here are the various swim lanes. The first of all is the phases of actions, thoughts, mindsets and emotions, right. Now, these the first one, what you see is the anxiety levels, and you would see the anxiety levels that are associated with the first trimester and the second one and third one. So, you would see more these experience map more in terms of how do the variations emerge in terms of human behavior based because of particular situation. The same thing can be planned for voting also, the same thing can be planned for the entire experience map of somebody who is ill or somebody who is suffering from a particular disease. The entire can be planned out, so on and so forth, and you can map out these behavioral activities in these ways. So, anxiety levels, sharing, planning and physical experience. So, these are broken down into 4 phases and being planned out. So, what anxieties are, anxiety levels are the various thoughts and mindsets, physical experience, the exertions, and then sharing and planning both are related to activities that are being performed. So, these are some of the ways through which your experience map allows allows us to understand how the behavior has evolved over a period of time. For designer, what is important here is that if your focus is on identifying a gap, if the focus is on identifying a situation which you want to address, you can use this experience map and target which is the situation, which is the scenario which you want to focus on for delivering a solution. Now, why use it? You use an experience map to understand a general human behavior. As such, we have talked about, if you see in empathy map and in customer journey map, there is a goal, this buying TV, switching plans. Here it is generic, it is a behavior around a particular situation, and here the situation is pregnancy. To create a baseline understanding of an experience, this is important so that you understand the experiential references across a particular situation. When to use it? Before a customer journey map, in order to gain understanding for a general human behavior, when covering multiple experiences, tool and specific user, agnostic, not associated with products and services, and into one visualization, these are being used. Our next one is the service blueprinting. Now, service blueprints are counterparts to customer journey maps and focused on employees. It visualizes the relationships between different service components like people, properties, physical or digital evidences, and processes that are directly tied to touch points in a specific journey map. So, think of service blueprints as a part to its a second version of the customer journey maps. Blueprints are instrumental in complex scenarios spanning many service related offerings. It is an ideal approach to experiences that are omnichannel, involve multiple touch points or require a cross functional effort, that is coordination of multiple departments. This is an example, what you see in this slide is an example of a service blueprint. Its characteristics are, it is tied to a specific service, it has 4 swim lanes like customer actions, front stage actions, backstage actions and support processes, reflects the organization's perspective focusing on the service provider and employees, leaving out most customer details, and again it is chronological and hierarchical. Remember this is important about service blueprinting. So, what do you see is in this slide is the documentation of the customer journey from visiting the website till the appliance, whatever product he is buying is delivered, the customer journey is visualized here. And now, what is happening inside the organization has also been mapped together. For example, if you see the line of interaction, the front stage, employees actions, technology, line of visibility, backstage actions, line of internal interaction, support processes, all the departments that are associated in order to ensure that the customer journey reaches to the desired goal is being displayed, and from where these interactions are happening, when the customer is directly making an interaction with the organization, internal to the organization, which are the interactions happening, how the responses are being mapped, and finally, how the product is delivered. Everything is mapped together along with evidence and time that is used as a scale here. Right. So, remember, a service blueprinting is hierarchical and chronological. Both are important in service blueprinting. So, why do you use it? You use it to discover weaknesses in the organization, to identify opportunities for optimization, to bridge cross department efforts, to break down silos and create one shared organization wide understanding of how the service is provided. And when do you use it? You use it to ensure that the entire structure of the function of the organization in coordination with the task completion is achieved, and therefore, It is being used after you create the customer journey map, before making organizational or process changes, and when pinpointing a funnel or breakpoint internally, you choose to come up with a service blueprint.